The evening air hung thick with cigarette smoke, raucous laughter, and the pungent aroma of stale beer. Within a poorly illuminated biker establishment positioned at the town's outskirts, leather-clad men adorned with intricate tattoos dominated the space with their coarse voices and wild abandon. This establishment represented the type of sanctuary where strangers feared a venture, where every shadowed alcove emanated menace and unwritten codes of conduct. No soul crossed that threshold without harboring either a desire for destruction or motivation more powerful than terror itself. On this particular evening, the entrance groaned open to admit an utterly unexpected visitor, a youthful food delivery worker bearing nothing beyond a weathered carrier bag, and her quivering resolve crossed the threshold. She appeared completely displaced, a delicate figure surrounded by a multitude of weathered countenances. Her footwear bore mud stains, her denim showed frayed edges, and her weary gaze revealed an exhausting day filled with hardships. Nevertheless, she advanced forward, gripping the delivery container firmly against her torso, as though it served as protective armor. Attention shifted in her direction. Discussion ceased abruptly. The music, previously thunderous and overwhelming, appeared to retreat into distant background noise. Every patron fixed their gaze upon her. Her presence violated the establishment's unspoken boundaries. She had no rightful place among them. Yet occasionally, existence forces the most vulnerable into predatory territory, examining whether their courage can endure the inferno. Within mere seconds, the tenuous tranquility of her arrival disintegrated completely. A massive biker, possessing broad shoulders, elaborate tattoo coverage, and facial hair as untamed as his notorious standing, rose to his feet. His heavy boots struck the timber flooring with percussive force as he approached her position. The atmosphere grew dense with tension. She became motionless, her fingers constricting around her bag's carrying strap. The biker displayed a contemptuous expression, his voice resonating with depth and derision as he questioned what such a young woman was accomplishing within his territory. Before she could formulate any response, his hand seized her garment, yanking her forward with such intensity that she nearly lost her balance. Sharp intakes of breath resonated throughout the space. Several patrons grinned maliciously, while others pressed closer, anticipating the degradation about to unfold. Then he tore her garment apart completely. However, what he discovered next commanded silence from even the most boisterous laughter. Upon her chest, positioned directly above her heart, existed a tattoo, an emblem so commanding and unforeseen that it paralyzed the entire establishment. This marking transcended mere decoration. It represented a symbol of dignity, sacrifice, and suffering. Before I disclose the significance of that tattoo, allow me to pause momentarily. If you maintain faith in compassion, in opportunities for redemption, and in narratives that demonstrate humanity's resilience, then please consider taking a moment to comment, share, and subscribe to Untold Story 0.4. Your encouragement enables us to deliver additional stories that move hearts and remind us that illumination persists even within the bleakest circumstances. Returning to our narrative, the tattoo bore no connection to defiance or reckless escapades. It displayed a military insignia, a Marine Corps symbol permanently inscribed upon her flesh. Yet, this wasn't merely arbitrary body art. It was encircled by dates, initials, and a modest inscription declaring, "For my brother, my protector, my hero." The biker remained frozen, his hand still grasping her damaged garment, but his vision remained fixed upon that inked tribute. His facial muscles contracted, and for the first occasion that evening, silence transcended mere discomfort to become oppressive and stifling. The men surrounding him, who moments earlier had been taunting and anticipating spectacle, now remained in shocked stillness. The young woman's breathing created sharp, visible movements, her eyes wide yet unwavering. She made no attempt to withdraw. She shed no tears. She simply maintained her position, as though challenging the world to witness her reality. In that instant, she transformed from merely a delivery worker into a sister, preserving the legacy of someone who had surrendered everything. Gradually, murmured conversations began spreading throughout the establishment. Some individuals recognized the military emblem. Some had served themselves or possessed brothers, fathers, or companions who never returned from combat. Within that collective silence, reverence displaced mockery. However, the narrative continues beyond this point. What circumstances compelled this vulnerable young woman into that biker establishment? Why was she, among all possible individuals, entering this predatory environment with nothing except a food container and a burdened heart? To comprehend this fully, we must examine her existence before the bar, before the torn clothing, before the tattoo commanded the entire room's attention. Her identity was Lily. She had reached only 23 years, yet existence had matured her far beyond her chronological age. She performed delivery work not through personal preference, but through absolute necessity. Her brother, Daniel, had served as the foundation of their small family unit following their parents' deaths. He was the individual who enlisted with the Marines, assuring her that regardless of circumstances, he would provide for her welfare. However, warfare destroys promises rather than honoring them. Daniel never returned to his homeland. Lily's entire universe collapsed. She found herself isolated, suffocating in sorrow with financial obligations accumulating, while facing a future that resembled an abyss more than a pathway forward. She possessed no one for emotional support. Therefore, she labored continuously. She transported packages, delivered meals, and drove her physical form through complete exhaustion because mere survival denied her the privilege of respite. Yet with every delivery, every footstep, she carried Daniel's presence alongside her. The tattoo transcended simple decoration. It represented a sacred oath, a commitment to continue existing, to persist in fighting even when the world attempted to destroy her spirit. This sequence of events led to her presence within that biker establishment. The order arrived randomly, simply another delivery assignment displayed on her battered mobile device. She remained unaware it would transport her into the community's most hazardous location. She couldn't have known she would confront individuals who flourished through intimidation tactics. She had no knowledge that her truth would render them speechless. Yet destiny possesses a method of guiding us precisely where we require placement, even when the destination resembles a combat zone. The biker who had destroyed her shirt bore the name Cole, recognized as among the most brutal within the organization. His physical violence communicated more effectively than his verbal expressions. However, as his gaze remained focused on that tattoo, buried memories began emerging to consciousness. Cole had served in military forces previously, long before he assumed leadership of a motorcycle gang. He had lost brothers in arms as well. He understood the significance of bearing scars upon both body and soul. For the first occasion in years, his grip relaxed, his arrogance diminished. He released her garment, his hand dropping as though he had contacted something hallowed. The surrounding men waited, observing, uncertain about subsequent developments. Then something completely unexpected occurred. Cole retreated backward. His voice, typically harsh and contemptuous, wavered as he inquired about Daniel's identity. Lily's lips trembled as she shared their story. She described her brother, his military service, his ultimate sacrifice, and how she maintained his memory through daily existence. The bar, previously a location of commotion and disorder, transformed into a sanctuary of silence. Men who had constructed their lives upon violence and intimidation now listened with genuine respect. Even experiencing guilt, several lowered their gazes, feeling ashamed about how quickly they had ridiculed someone whose inner strength far exceeded their superficial bravado. Yet this represented merely the beginning. That singular moment would initiate a sequence of events that would permanently transform not only Lily's existence, but also the lives of those hardened bikers. Because occasionally the smallest spark can illuminate the most shadowed chamber. The quietude within the bar exceeded anything Lily had previously encountered. These men who moments earlier prepared to ridicule her now stood motionless like monuments, their attention concentrated on the emblem positioned above her heart. Cole's facial muscles tightened, as though he battled an internal conflict. For years, he had suppressed his past, the memories of his own military comrades who never completed their return journey. However, Lily's tattoo had exposed those wounds like her shirt had been destroyed, leaving raw anguish visible for universal observation. Lily sensed her own hands shaking, yet she declined to conceal herself. She felt no shame regarding the ink adorning her skin, and she no longer feared their scrutiny. For the first time, she recognized the influence of displaying her brother's memory so prominently. It transcended mere body art. It represented a truth that commanded respect even from the most callous hearts. Cole gradually resumed his seated position, his leather vest producing creaking sounds as he lowered himself onto the bar stool. He indicated for her to sit as well, though she remained upright, uncertain whether to trust his intentions or flee immediately. Several bikers exchanged uncomfortable glances, the strain still permeating the atmosphere. Then one individual, elderly with silver facial hair, elevated his beer bottle silently and whispered, "To the fallen." These words functioned like ignition. Sequentially, others raised their beverages, nodding with solemn acknowledgement. Lily's throat constricted as tears clouded her vision. She had been preserving Daniel's memory in isolation for such an extended period. Yet here, within the most improbable location, strangers were paying tribute to him. Strangers who lived according to their own harsh principles of loyalty and brotherhood. Yet they comprehended loss in ways few individuals could. Following an extended pause, Cole cleared his throat roughly. His voice maintained its coarse quality, but contained no derision this time. He shared details about his own history, explaining how he once wore military uniform as well. He described how he had pledged never to discuss it again because the guilt of surviving, when others' perished, continued tormenting him. He confessed to numbing himself through violence, alcohol, and brotherhood of an alternative nature, the variety that avoided inquiries while offering refuge for concealment. Lily absorbed his words, her heart experiencing pain. For the first time, she perceived beyond a frightening biker displaying tattoos and scars. She observed a man damaged in ways remarkably similar to herself. However, the evening hadn't completed its examination of her character. From the establishment's rear section, an individual expressed contempt, disrupting the weighty silence. His voice carried coldness, mocking the entire emotional moment. He ridiculed the sentimental narrative and suggested she was merely exploiting her tattoo to manipulate sympathy, or worse, to claim respect she hadn't earned. His statements cut through the delicate strand of humanity that had begun forming within the room. The remaining patrons turned, directing hostile glares toward him, but Lily herself moved forward, her torso still visible through the damaged shirt. She stood with dignity, her voice trembling yet powerful. She declared she required no one's compassion, nor was she seeking their approval. She exhausted herself through labor daily simply to maintain her existence, and if anyone considered her weak, they were welcome to attempt living her circumstances for merely 1 week. The man became silent, his contemptuous expression dissolving as the impact of her declaration registered. The bar maintained its quiet atmosphere.